从小的教育跟我们说，文法的正确度决定了我们的语言程度。但为什么考试100分并不代表沟通能力也100分呢？到底文法是帮助我们学习，还是成为一种障碍呢？ Hello， 欢迎来到商业英语 Career Plus 的 podcast。在这边，我们利用多年国际职场与教学经验，带给大家最真实与贴切的职场英语知识。Hi, I'm Sherry, founder of Executive Plus.As a language trainer and certified coach, I've trained hundreds of managers from Fortune 500 companies such as Dior, Google, and Deloitte & Touche.
And I'm Nick, Director of Communication Strategy at Presentality. I've helped startups raise millions of US dollars in funding and trained executives of publicly listed companies to present on the global stage. Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 15 of the Career Plus podcast, where we ask the question, should I throw all my grammar knowledge straight into the trash can? In this episode, we're going to talk a bit about why people's thought and approach to grammar is not really helping them in a conversational or in a business sense. We're not advocating you should totally stop learning grammar, it's not important.But we do want to highlight that the way that you look at grammar for business English, for professional English, or presentation is drastically different than the way that you learned it growing up.
所以 again, 我们第一个想要先说，我们没有要 trash talk grammar。grammar 当然在学习上面是非常重要的，但是当我们真的在沟通上面跟了解我们 day to day 这种 business 上面的 communication 的时候，到底 grammar 是站在哪里呢？那我们之所以想要去讨论这个话题，是因为其实我在读教育硕士的时候，我发现呢，那个文法它有两种，它其实有一种叫做 prescriptive grammar， 另外一种叫 descriptive grammar. 那我稍微念一下它的 definition. So, a descriptive grammar is a study of a language, its structure, and its rules as they are used in daily lives by its speakers from all walks of life, including standards and non-standard varieties. 它其实意思就是说，这个文法它是沟通的文法，也就是不同的人种，不同的文化，如果当你就算英文是第二语言的这种文法的用法。那第二种就是 prescriptive grammar， 那它的 definition 是 specifies how a language and its grammar rules should be used。 那这个就是我们以前从小到大在学校学习的，也就是这些规则，也就是考试的文法。
And the really easy way to think about how this works is if you listen to someone speak, especially a native speaker, most of those grammar rules that you've had drilled into you go right out the door. The way that we speak and use colloquial English doesn't adhere perfectly to all these grammar rules that you've been taught. Another easy way that you can see this is look at any kind of play or old epic, say the Odyssey, the Iliad, even the Bible. The way it's written was it's an oral tradition. It was meant to be spoken. So the grammar makes no sense. There's commas, there's less periods, things don't follow all these rules. And that's because in these oral traditions, you're following a different thought process when it comes to grammar. So these are really quick ways that you can see that difference.
所以我觉得当我们在讲这种商业英语好了，那商业英语其实基本上就是沟通英语嘛。那沟通英语我们其实要着重的，因为我们现在面对的是国际市场的人，很多人他其实英文也不是他们的第一语言，所以我们其实在这个部分，我们用这种 descriptive grammar， 也就是我刚刚讲第一个，帮助我们沟通的文法，只要它这种沟通的文法它正确，它能够帮助我们沟通，那就没有问题了。
Why would you focus more on this descriptive grammar as opposed to prescriptive grammar when it comes to business English, especially for adult learners?
Well, first of all, I think sometimes there's one thing. So there's always the fluency, right? There's fluency. Sometimes if you're overly focused on the grammar rules, you actually are afraid of making sentences or to speak.
The best academic writers I know hate getting on stage because they're afraid that they're going to say everything wrong, even though when in written form, it's perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that would be definitely the one thing that why it's really important to focus on the descriptive grammar. So what do you think? Do you think there's any other reasons why we need to focus on descriptive grammar?
When you're looking at prescriptive grammar, a lot of people are so focused on the accuracy level that they're forgetting about the clarity of their message. So anytime that you communicate, especially orally, the key idea is be clear about what's going on. You don't need to be grammatically perfect as long as the other side completely understands what your point is and there's no misunderstanding. This is especially important when doing like business negotiation or handling anything from a legal side. You are better off being completely understood than being grammatically correct. Because you can get into very grammatically complex structures, be totally correct, and the meaning will be lost and miscommunication will happen.
So I like how you said the clarity of the message. So when we think of clarity, a lot of people think of clarity of your voice. What else would you say? Like clarity of a message, how do you break it down?
Clarity of a message would be, could someone directly summarize what you just told them and get everything that you said accurately? Which means if I talk for 5 minutes and the person across from me cannot turn around and go, okay, here's what I hear your main message is, and here are your key points to back it up. Or here's the plan that you want to do, and here are the steps we're going to take. If they can't do that, that means that probably what you said was not easy to follow or not clear enough for them.
所以当一个人他可能做一个 presentation 或者他可能讲话讲1分钟好了，如果你能够清楚的 list out 说他刚刚说了什么什么什么，他的重点是什么，那表示这个 message 是it has a clarity, right?
Right.
It's clear.
And this is actually contradictory to the face to what a lot of these like TOEIC and TOEFL learning classes are, where they're like oral speaking. Instead of saying, you know, there's a rise in the number of people, then they'll teach you like 17 different ways to say like it's increasing, it's going up.
Yeah.
But to be honest, that's a terrible thing to worry about in your office. What you should be about is explain the trend of the graph so clearly that no one could ever misinterpret that.
所以其实有很多那种我们在沟通上的重点，你真的要放对地方。所以我们现在跟你讲了 OK， 在 business 的 English 上面，这种沟通的语言上面，我们的文法不是最重要的。那到底什么是重要呢？那 again 就是像刚刚 Nick 所讲的 the message itself is the most important thing. So I would say when you're thinking about the clarity of your message, number one, you should ask yourself is, who is your audience? Who's actually listening to this, right?
Right. So part of this goes into what do they care about? Anytime that you're talking to your audience, it's not about what you think they should know. It's about why they would want to listen to you. And the other half of that is thinking about their speaker level. And this is where the clarity really comes in. If you're talking to a room of highly professional, native level speakers, say things as descriptively as you want. But if your audience is full of people, say, student to students, these are people on the same level with you, then clarity is king. Do they understand what you're saying?
Okay. So who is your audience? 你的观众是谁？你的观众的程度在哪里？你的观众他是比如说他是医学背景的嘛，所以你现在你可能做的 presentation 是在讲医药好了，你是 medicine， 那你可以讲的多 detail， 或者如果他们可能不是，他们可能是 sales， 那所以你的 message 要多么的 detail， 或者是你的 message 是怎么样，你要因你的观众的背景而去做一些更改。So who is your audience and why are they listening to you? I think this is really important. Right?
Yeah, it's like what's their motivation to be listening to this talk? And this goes back to creating your key point. So it's when you're being grammatically correct and totally fluent, maybe you're not highlighting what your key message is. So anytime you listen to a really powerful speech, take the Martin Luther King, I have a dream, that one day. That's it. There's nothing complicated about that.
Yeah.
But he's really hiding his, I have a dream.
It's simple as that, right?
Yeah, it's very simple, but it's incredibly powerful because he's painting a picture in your mind. He's not worried about how fluent or high level he sounds. He's really connecting to people.
And because the listeners, the audience are there to be inspired, right?
Right.
So that's why, he had that very powerful speech or that sentence.
Yeah, and you actually see this at work. As interesting as the US presidential debate comes back up, is a lot of people accused Trump of speaking like a child, like not very sophisticated. But then some analysts looked back and said he does it on purpose because his base demographic maybe in some cases less educated or are not, Wall Street professionals. You're looking at farmers, you're looking at laborers, you're looking at people who it became clarity. They trusted him because they understood him and they felt that other people were talking at too high a level.
That's a very good point. 所以我相信大家一定认识川普是谁。那川普大家应该有听到，就在一些新闻上面听过他在跟他的fans、他的粉丝们讲话的时候。
I'm not advocating for Trump. What I'm saying is some people will say it's like, oh, it's so basic. But the truth is, but it's insanely clear to his audience.
是没有错，他用的 vocabulary 实在是没有太多，而且他常常会重复讲一样的字 right? Repeat the same vocab.
The greatest country.
Yeah. He likes a simple word like huge, the greatest.
Yeah.
Right? But the audience, it's clear to them, right?
Yeah.
It speaks to them.
And when you compare him to, say, Obama was an incredibly articulate speaker.
Yes.
He's very funny. He's very humorous. He has very high intellectual jokes. But for many people, this also makes them feel separated from him, right? This is a very highly educated, well-to-do person. So he and I have nothing to do with each other. So again, this is having, knowing very clearly who your audience is will make a big difference when it comes to connecting to someone on a personal level.
简单来讲，他们的 TA 很不一样。
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I think, again, what is really important when it comes to the delivery of the message is that what is the goal of the conversation? What are you going to try to get out of, right? Exactly after this presentation or after this conversation, what do you want to get out of?
Thinking about the goal of your conversation. And this can be an actual goal as far as what I want them to do or what I want. Another thing that you can consider is, what do I want them to feel? Right? And this is back to that descriptive side of grammar, is not about the grammatical correctness, but about the emotional connection or the emotional feeling you want to create within someone. So we even do this when we're working on pitch presentation, is people think it's, logical, VCs want money. But a lot of times as a VC is investing in you as a person. And so the words you need to use and the way you tell your story actually needs to create either an emotional bond to you or an emotional bond to the topic that you're covering.
So how to make them feel.
Yeah, it's like, what feeling do you want someone to walk away with after it's like they should be impressed, they should be excited, they should be ready to, jump out. That will change the wording and the way that you talk to create that feeling.
所以这也是算是目标的一种。
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So the last one would be, when do you want to see the results? I mean, this is more of I think everyone has some sort of deadline in their mind when they're creating any kind of project, right? So I think just knowing this will also allows you to kind of change or adapt your message. Yeah.
Right. And this is what you should be building your vocabulary around. It's not about sounding like I can find the longest word in the dictionary. Your vocabulary should be built around this idea of, when do you want to see it? Urgency, right? Like, You're using words like quick, immediately, right away. They can be simple, but you should build them around this idea.
Absolutely. Or simplest thing, just by tomorrow.
Yeah.
8 p.m. or something like that. Yeah. 不管你的文法有多么的好 you know, 你考试成绩多高，如果你在 delivery of message 你没有办法说去想到 who's your audience, why are they listening to you, what is the goal of the conversation or the presentation, or when do you want to see the results? 如果你没有办法去 focus 在这4点的话，那你文法再好其实也都没有什么太大的用处。
We really hope that through this episode and the previous episode, you understand a little bit more about how we're looking at building the logic behind your communication and these rules that have been instilled, you know, into you since you were in elementary school can be secondary. They can definitely boost you, they definitely help you, but you really need to think through this communication logic.
So I think this is going to be something that we keep carrying on throughout our podcast series. So I really hope you guys enjoyed our episode today, and we'll see you guys next time. 如果你喜欢我们的 podcast, 欢迎来追踪我们的主管英文 Executive Plus 的 Facebook. 那也可以写信到我们的信箱yourcareerplus@gmail.com.